Hey, real quick, before we dive into today's episode, if you've been feeling like your brand needs a little love, but you're not quite sure where to start, I have just the tool you need. The Standout Brand Audit Bot is an AI-powered guided audit that shows you exactly what's working, what's not, and how to strengthen your brand using my proven Standout brand system. In 10 minutes or less, you'll walk away with clear next steps to move your brand forward with purpose. It's completely free. Just head to the show notes to grab the link and get started. Sarah Gemmell has become the queen of networking from building her previous fitness business into a global platform using networking as a main lead generator, but also from helping hundreds of business owners generate hundreds of thousands of dollars through quality connections, introductions, and referrals. She's created a groundbreaking networking strategy that dives deep into the nuances of how you show up in meetings and events so that you can increase the number of quality leads you're getting in a way that always keeps people above profit. Sarah's knowledge in psychology and background in counseling, mixed with her ability to connect people to each other and her ability to challenge the status quo and shift others' perspectives, makes her your new favorite networking partner. In this training from the Six Figure Brand Society Vault, Sarah talks about how to leverage networking so it's not a waste of your time. Specifically, she covers the 4 adjustments you can make to your networking strategy to increase ROI. If you are tired of feeling like networking is a waste of your time, or you're spending tons and tons of time on coffee chats and they're never going anywhere, you need to listen to this episode. Welcome to the Six Figure Brand Podcast, where each week we're pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to build a six-figure business as an online service provider. I'm your host, Morgan. I'm a branding expert, online agency owner, mom of 2, and military spouse, and I'm obsessed with helping entrepreneurs like you understand the ins and outs of branding so that you can use it to grow your business without sacrificing your sanity. Whether you're just starting out or focused on scaling, we're diving into everything you need to build a profitable and sustainable online business. Let's get to it. Real quick, before we dive into Sarah's training, I just want to remind you that this is a guest expert training from the Six Figure Brand Society Vault. So Sarah came into my membership, the Six Figure Brand Society, last year, gave this killer training on networking, and I felt like the world needed to hear about it. So I'm sharing it with you on the podcast today. We do these trainings monthly inside the Six Figure Brand Society, and if you are curious about catching the next one live, make sure you are on my email list so that you can get notified about upcoming trainings. You can also join the Six Figure Brand Society at a discounted rate using the link in the show notes. All right, let's hear from Sarah.
We're going to dive in today to how to leverage networking so it's not a waste of your time. And shout out to Morgan. We collabed on this title because we all know how time consuming networking is. Networking, I've actually done this math before. You spend 16 and a half hours a month for each weekly meeting that you do. Right. So now you add together all your weekly meetings, but then you add in also all the time that you spend to travel to in-person meetings, your monthly meetings, your random meeting. It is very, very time consuming. Right. So what we want to do, and part of the goal of this workshop is you don't need to do less of it. You don't need to spend less time, but we need to make sure that that time is actually converting. Right. We want that time to be marketing time, lead generation time, brand awareness time. For those who I'm Sarah Gemmell. I'm the queen of networking. What that means is I help entrepreneurs to actually leverage those relationships, right? Actually get those leads and referrals coming in from all the time that you're spending in networking. So perfect time about time because we invest a lot into building relationships. We invest a lot into being in the right rooms and to talking to people and coffee chats and all the things. I come in and I make small tweaks to that strategy so that you can actually see more leads and more referrals, which means more profitability, right? We want to make sure that we're actually increasing revenue. We're actually getting leads that lead to sales, but also that it means an increase in impact, right? How many people you're serving, how many people you're helping, how many people you're bringing into your community. A little bit about me. I am a cat mom times 3, a horse mom times 2. I'm an auntie. I have a ton of nieces and nephews, and I'm also pregnant with my first baby. I'll be having my first baby in September. When I'm not working, I'm usually doing one of these things. I'm usually either with my horses, hanging out at home, Netflix and chilling with my babies, my nieces and my nephews. I also love to be outside. Does anyone else love to take kayak, swim? Like in the summer, you can find me in the North Georgia mountains in the waterfalls. By far my favorite thing. I got here. It's very roundabout. It seems kind of random, but all the things have divinely kind of worked together. So I actually have a psych degree. I went to school for psych. I went into addictions counseling right out of college, and I actually really, really loved it. I have a sweet spot for addicts. Like that is a cause very special and close to my heart. But when I went through my divorce in 2016, I went through a career change. And that's when I got out of social services. I got into personal training and fitness. And that's where I found entrepreneurship. And that's where I really dove into like the marketing and the sales and all the things. Like we think we just get to do the thing that we enjoy or the thing that we're good at. And then it's like, LOL, no, you actually have to be human resources and customer service and the marketing department and the sales department. So that's where I started learning about entrepreneurship and specifically online entrepreneurship, which came in handy because I broke my back in 2017. I had a spinal fusion at the beginning of 2018, and I was unable to work in the gym for the better part of 2 years. So being able to build that business online, taking that business, going 100% self-employed, 3 times my income in the first 30 days, and then going on to build a global fitness platform during the pandemic solely through networking, right? Networking was the one lead generator I had down pat. And that's how I ended up here when I shut the fitness business down. I moved into the networking strategy, the lead generation strategy, the marketing consulting, because what I look at is the psychology of how someone refers, right? So understanding marketing is understanding how people make buying decisions. How does your ideal client make decisions? How do they feel? How do they talk? Where do they hang out, right? All those things. Networking is very different. Networking is actually understanding how the referral partner makes the referral. And that's a very important shift that we're going to dive a little bit into today. But understanding what is going to get someone to just say your name in a room that you're not in. What's going to get them to put you in front of a new opportunity? It's not the same as understanding the sales psychology, right? So what do you consider successful networking? And what do you consider to be a wasted time in networking? So is it growth in an email list? Is it growth in social media? Is it more sales calls booked on your calendar? Is it having more friends in business? It can be literally anything. But also, what's a waste of time? Are you sick of getting on coffee chats that don't lead to anything? Are you sick of meetings that are just fluffy, open conversation? It's really important to understand that networking can often feel like a waste of time because usually we just show up and we wing it, right? And when I got into networking, that's exactly what I was doing. I was winging it. But I very quickly realized when I started to really look at the time that I was investing, networking to grow a business and networking to get an ROI is actually not an innate skill. It has nothing to do with being introverted or extroverted or good at dealing with people or good at sales. Networking to grow a business is a skill just like anything else. It requires training and development. It requires auditing and practicing. So when we treat it like a skill, it feels less like a waste of time, right? We need to have mutually beneficial relationships. We need to have those relationships that actually lead to something, not just like, oh, cool, we can chit chat and drink coffee. If that's what we're doing, that's fine. But we can be friends over here. And I'm not going to spend business time in those meetings or on those coffee chats. We can talk over here when neither one of us are working, right? That's totally fine. The thing about networking and the thing about psychology, right? When you have frustration, when you feel overwhelmed, when your brain is like so ready to explode from spending time, spinning your wheels, not seeing the success come out of networking, what's going to happen is you're going to take less action, right? And what happens is when we don't see the results we want to see, we typically stop showing up. So it's important before you get to that point, before you get to the point of being so overwhelmed and frustrated with a particular meeting or a particular aspect of networking, or maybe it's all of it, we want to make sure that we can make those little tweaks so that your brain wants to keep showing up. The basic psychology of learning a behavior is we need to be rewarded in order to continue a behavior, right? There needs to be a dopamine hit. There needs to be a reward in order for us to keep going back. And in this case, we want those valuable connections. We want the leads. We want the business growth, right? So that's what we're going to dive into a little bit today. Put in the chat if that sounds good to you, because we're going to talk about the 4 adjustments specifically that you make to your networking that are going to help you stop wasting your time. So number 1 is your intentions. Intentions in networking, we talked a little bit about this when we talked about understanding the psychology of buyers versus referral partners. You have to look at your intentions in networking in order to make sure that you're showing up with the right energy, right? We want to make sure that you're not the one showing up with commission breath. You're not the one that's showing up like the used car salesman, right? Your intentions of being in networking should be brand awareness, visibility, leads, getting in front of new opportunities. How can your network and your referral partners support your other marketing efforts? Okay, so you have your offer suite. You start with your offer suite, then figure out for each one of your offers, what is the marketing for those offers, right? So if I have a freebie, I know that freebie does really well on Instagram, or I'm going to run a Facebook ad, or it's on Google and the Google SEO is really good, whatever it is. I'm going to go into my networking meeting and I'm going to get my networking partners to support me on the Google, the Facebook, or the Instagram efforts. I'm not asking them to opt in. That's a sale, right? I'm asking them to support this marketing effort over here so I can get more eyeballs on it. So when we look at intentions, we look at networking is not sales. If you take nothing else from this workshop, please take that. Okay. Networking is not sales. It is all about how can I find these mutually beneficial relationships where I can serve them. I know I can add value to them. I can get them in front of opportunities. I can pass them referrals, but also they're passing referrals back. Because even though we're going to talk a lot about intentions and mutually beneficial relationships and giving more than you take, you also shouldn't be a doormat, to be very clear, right? You should not just be giving and giving and giving and not getting anything back. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind that there is a balance and it should always be mutually beneficial, right? But we also are strategic in those relationships. We know the complementary industries that we work really, really well with, right? We know that the core values over here are really important to us, or whatever it is. We know that these types of business owners, these types of industries, these types of offers work really, really well. But we also learn what doesn't work well. And that's important to know too. When you show up with those clear intentions of I'm here to market, not to sell, you're going to see a much better ROI because you're going to become much more magnetic to the people who are listening to you give your intro, to the people you're having coffee chats with. Have you ever had a coffee chat with someone and they're you can tell they're giving you their information, but there's a hidden agenda to sell you? Like, oh, tell me what you do. And you can tell there's this hidden agenda where it's this fancy sales marketing and it's copyrighted to the ideal client. You can just tell that they're trying to get you to buy something. That's not magnetizing. That's the exact opposite. That is repelling. You don't want to talk to that person because you know that at some point the pitch is going to come because their intention is Madeline going to be my next client? Where can Morgan fit into my funnel, right? Danielle's an ideal client. I'm going to throw her over here into this offer so that eventually she'll buy. That's never the goal. Now, if that happens, it is a bonus. Okay. If your referral partners come to you and say, I need what you have, obviously you're going to not say, no, we're referral partners, right? No, the answer is yes, of course, but let them come to you. Okay. Let them make that decision. Let them have that autonomy. The other thing that's really important, and this is something I hear a lot, especially from women, is, but Sarah, I want my relationships to be genuine and I want to be authentic. You can be both. You can be strategic in your relationships and be authentic. Just because you're strategic in how you show up in a relationship does not make you disingenuous. It does not make you spammy. It does not make you fake. Both can exist, right? We can always keep people above profit, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, what are we doing, right? What are we doing to both grow our business? And that's a really important mindset shift in that intention. Number 2, your strategy. A lot of times in networking, like I said, I even did this in the beginning. We usually just show up and we wing it, right? But the two key components being successful in networking, one, you have to show up. You have to be getting in the room, obviously, right? But once you get in the room, once you show up, once you get yourself out there, having that strategy to support that action taking side is going to be a game changer. There needs to be strategy behind where you're going, the intros that you're giving, the messaging that you're using, the asks that you give, how you structure coffee chats, how you pre-qualify coffee chats. You want to talk about not wasting time, spend less time on coffee chats with people who are not aligned by having better pre-qualification, right? That's all part of your strategy. Same thing with tracking metrics and having follow-up systems. We need to be able to make data-based decisions if we're going to keep going back to a certain networking meeting or event. Are we going to add more people? Do we need to change this, change that? We need to make data-based decisions because we are experienced business owners. You're not new to this, you're true to this, right? We don't just throw spaghetti at the wall and hope for the best anymore. We need to have that data. That's all part of the strategy. So we're going to stop winging it. We're going to start implementing better strategy, just these tiny little tweaks. Because you're already networking, the cool thing about this, right? The cool thing about what I do is it doesn't add a lot of time to what you have to commit to. It's not a huge commitment to change your networking strategy because you're already implementing the networking. You just need to change the approach to the networking. Right? So in this strategy, we look at where are you spending time? So like, what does your schedule look like? How are you diversifying your meetings and events? How are you talking to different audiences? Things like that. What does your intro sound like? How strategic are your asks? How are you pre-qualifying and structuring your coffee chats? How are you automating and systematizing your follow-up so that less people fall through the cracks and that you can better nurture relationships? And then that last one is how are you tracking metrics? Okay. So that is in a nutshell. Of course, there's more to strategy, but like that in a nutshell is what your strategy is going to look like. Okay. And at the very top, we talked about a few slides back, your offer suite and your marketing strategies, having a clear understanding on what those are so that we know where we're even driving. Okay. Number 3, your messaging. We talked about this a little bit in the beginning. Networking is not sales, right? So in order to understand messaging, we have to understand that you are not talking to your ideal client. Stop messaging your assets in networking to an ideal client. Your intro, it's not messaged to an ideal client. Your business spotlight, your speaker spotlights, when you're talking to people on a coffee chat, we are not using messaging for the ideal client because we're not talking to the ideal client. Even if you are, pretend like you're not, okay? You are talking to your referral partner. You are talking to the general public. We need to use language that is meant for the general public. And we're going to dive a little bit into why, okay? The first thing we need to understand is there's the 3 C's to making a referral. The 3 C's to making a referral are confidence, clarity, and connection. What most people think about when they hear these 3 words are themselves, right? So you think about your own confidence, your own clarity, your own connection to people. But it actually is not anything to do with you. It has to do with your referral partner's confidence, clarity, and connection. Does your referral partner have the confidence that you know what you're doing and that you're going to take care of the referral? Do they trust you and do they have that confidence in you? Are they clear on what you do, who you serve, and what opportunities you're looking for? Are they so clear to where they can regurgitate it? I can tell you that Alice teaches Italian because it's clear, right? We all know those people that we network with that are like, oh, I help women live their best lives and I help them step into their feminine divine power through foot therapy. And you're like, what in the fuck does that mean? Right? What is foot therapy? I don't even think I'm using the right words because I'm not clear on it. Okay. And what does live your best life mean? That could be a health coach. It could be a financial advisor. It could be a nutritionist. It could be a business coach. Is your referral partner clear enough to where they can tell other people what you do? And then do they feel connected enough to you that when they say, hey, do you know someone who can run my admin? Danielle's one of the first people they think of. When you get an ask for a recommendation, someone comes to you and says, hey, do you know someone who can do branding? Right? How many people do you think of right off the bat? How many names come to mind if I say to you, who do you know that does branding? Most of the times it's like 2 or 3, right? Maybe 4. We're not going to list off every branding expert we've ever met. We're going to think of the top 4 that we have the best connection to, that we see the most, that we know the best, right? And the thing about these 3 C's, the first 2 come from your messaging, okay? Confidence and clarity come from your messaging. Typically, this is in your introduction, but this is also in your coffee chats. It's in your business spotlights. It's how you show up in networking. When someone just says to you, what do you do? That's messaging, right? In your systems and your follow-ups on your website, you can have a networking one sheet. I love networking one sheets like that you can send to your referral partners. Is the messaging clear on that? Is the messaging clear on your business card? And I'm team paper business cards. Okay. They are not dead. That's a whole nother conversation, but have paper business cards, please. Okay. We all need at least sometimes the paper business card. But these 3 C's are really important to understand when we talk about messaging. Because when you show up, you are not talking to your ideal client. You are talking to your referral partner. And when you make that shift, you're going to see a much better ROI. When you make them feel more confident and more clear in what you do, it's going to be easier for them to pass through, right? And then that third one here, connection, leads us perfectly into the 4th adjustment that you're going to make is how you nurture people, okay? People do not feel connected to you after listening to your 30-second intro one time. They could even listen to your 30-second intro every single week, but you never talk to them outside of that meeting. They're still not going to feel connected to you, right? How do you nurture the people in your network? Think about how many times do you have someone message you and they're like, hey, I'm doing this workshop. You should sign up. Or, hey, I'm in this launch. I think you would be great for this program. And then you look back on the thread and every time they reach out to you is only to get you to buy something, sell something, or share something. We all know how that feels. It doesn't feel good. It's gross. It's disgusting. And actually what ends up happening is we usually take those people out of our network, right? We usually unfriend them, unfollow them, tell them to stop messaging us. So we want to make sure we're not falling into that. We want to make sure that we're not accidentally showing up that way because sometimes it's not intentional, right? It's not intentional. It's just that something came up where you're like, do I know someone who does branding? And you're like, oh my gosh, Morgan does branding. I'm going to reach out to her. But you haven't talked to Morgan in 6 months, right? So when you nurture people systematically, it allows for you to really build that relationship, build that connection with them so that when it's time to come to them and say, hey, listen, I'm going into a launch and I'm not asking you to buy into the launch. I'm asking you, can you share it to your email list? Can you make a recommendation of someone I should talk to? Can you introduce me to a podcast host for my podcast for to promote this launch? When you go to your referral partners with a direct ask, and you've already been nurturing them, it's going to be so much more successful. Going to them with just the ask and no nurturing is making you savvy, right? I know that I can go to Danielle and I can say, Danielle, I really need to talk to someone who's hosting an event for financial advisors. Danielle's like, hell yeah, here you go. Here's how, here's a Facebook group you can go to. Here's a person you can email because Danielle and I have a relationship. And that doesn't mean we talk every day or every week or we do coffee chats every month, but there is intentionality in the nurturing, right? Nurturing is also how you show up and give. So when you give more, you will get more. Give people opportunities, give them a shout out, give them testimonials, give them engagement on social media. Think about all the really easy ways that you can give. And that's the best way to nurture a relationship. It's not the fake, like, hey, how are you? And you low key don't care how they're doing. You just want to open the conversation to pitch them on something. Yeah, that's not nurturing. Okay. That's not caring about someone and building a relationship with someone. What's showing them you care is saying, hey, I listened to you. I know that you do website builds and I know that you do that in a VIP day. And I know that you get a lot of traction from podcasts. So here's this Facebook group that I just found where I'm getting a lot of podcast leads. Even just sharing that is helpful because what do we talk about under number one? We talked about intentions of networking or not sales, it's marketing. So really it's just how can my network tell me about new opportunities, introduce me to new people. When my network sends me a group, like a Facebook group, and they're like, Sarah, I thought about you because I'm in this Facebook group. I've been getting a lot of leads from it where there's a lot of people asking for X, X, and X, and I thought about you. That is so, so helpful. That is so much more helpful to me than that person buying like a $47 workbook one time just because they felt obligated to. And that comes from nurturing. Right? When we talk about nurturing people, I do systems. We talked about this in the strategy. Systematize how you follow up with people. It is okay. We talked about how you can still be strategic. You can still be genuine, all these things, right? We create systems and automations for referral partners specifically. It looks nothing like a sales funnel. It's not even a newsletter funnel. Do not put your referral partners on newsletters. They don't want to be there. Okay. If they do want to be there, they will opt in. But we have its own funnel over here to just check in and to just show up for that person in a way where we don't need anything. The system is all about them, right? The automation is all about them. And then when you have things that come up where you have a direct ask, that's all done manually, right? That's all done manually and genuinely in a conversation. We're creatures of habit. We love comfort. So we tend to just like find one really good networking meeting. We'll just stick to that, right? Don't put all your networking eggs in one basket. Make sure that you're diversifying, but part of your strategy is understanding your capacity, right? So like maybe you're just adding in a new group once a month or once a quarter. You do not need to be going to a new group every single week. And make sure you're nurturing your people first, right? Nurture the people that are already there first, get your systems down, and then add in new people. We have no business growing our network when we're not even taking care of the one we have. Right? So you look at how are you taking care of your people? How are you nurturing and systematizing and all these things? What does your strategy look like? And then what is your capacity to add in new people, right? Maybe it's a different type of meeting. Maybe it's a different type of industry that you're looking to connect to, like in-person versus virtual, co-ed versus women only. Maybe it's like even personal growth related versus actual like business networking. Maybe it's a fundraiser, something like that. See a lot of strategy, making sure that we understand where are these leads coming from. And a really good exercise that you can do, I actually do this when I consult with people. Think about your leads for the last 30 to 60 days. Write down where those leads came from and try to track them back to like the origin. Did they find you organically on Instagram? Did they find you through a Google search? Or did they somehow through the pipeline end up coming from a referral, right? So maybe that referral didn't make a direct introduction, but say, for example, Danielle refers me to a Facebook group. She tags me in a post. I talk to that person. That person invites me to a networking event. I go to that networking event, meet another person, and that person somehow becomes a lead. That gets tied back to Danielle. And then I think about where did I meet Danielle? Okay, cool. So that group where I met Danielle is obviously working because it got me a lead, right? I see a lot of strategy. Yeah. So this is really good. This is a good opportunity to just kind of point out those areas that can stand to be improved. And like I said in the beginning, it's not super time consuming. It's just little tweaks. How can we implement better strategy in your messaging, in your delivery, in your systems? How can we just literally add a couple of questions to your coffee chat link so that you're better pre-qualifying people, right? Little things like that make such a big difference. And that's part of what I love about what I do so much is that these small, tiny tweaks that won't drive you crazy. They won't overwhelm you. They won't make you feel like you want to pull your hair out, but they make such a difference in the actual conversion to leads and referrals, right? Okay. But I also want to open the floor for Q&A.
Are the things we need to hit in a 20-second spiel?
Okay. So when we talk about intros are literally just meant to spark interest at the most basic level, right? So I always like to have a go-to 30-second intro. That's like the typical elevator pitch that everyone talks about, like go-to 30-second intro. That's message for your referral partner, not your ideal client. But have variations from there. So you're going to go into some meetings where they give you 2 minutes and some meetings where they give you 10 seconds. What a lot of people do, that's a major mistake, is they will try to fit the 30 seconds into 10 to 20 by just talking faster. That's not helping because no one's retaining any of that. Cut it down to name, title, which you'd be surprised how many people forget their name and title in their intro. No matter how many times you've been to a group or how many times you've met people, there's typically always someone that needs the reminder. So name and title. I would go like basic I help statement. Your goal of a 10 to 20 second spiel is here's the industry I work in and here's how to either refer back and forth or collab with me. Like here's what I'm looking to do. I just want to spark enough interest that we can have a coffee chat because there's no way I'm going to tell you about my offers, my ask, who I'm looking to get connected to in 10 seconds or even 20 seconds. So when it's really short like that, be short, sweet, and to the point. I'm Danielle Rodriguez-Cade. I'm an admin expert working with nonprofits and financial advisors to get their admin together, right? And I know that's not the messaging we would use, but like that last little part there, I help these people do this thing. I work with this audience to do this thing and pick one audience that you work with based on the room that you're in. So if you go into like a BNI group, right? BNI is very traditional, very old school networking. I would talk about the financial advisors because they all know a million financial advisors because it's one of those industries, right? But if you come into like a virtual space that is all about like heart-centered, more woo-woo-y female entrepreneurs, you're going to talk about the nonprofits because that's who they know. If they're heart-centered, they're probably involved in some kind of nonprofit at some level, right? Same thing, like if I'm talking to a great example, I used to go to a group on Wednesday mornings where that group was huge on Instagram. I'm not even going to talk about any other platform because I know that group's primary platform is Instagram. If I talk about Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, it's lost. Read the room, do a little bit of research, and that's how you can pick and choose which specific audience you're going to focus on, which specific offer you're going to focus on, and what your ask is going to be.
Is your brand feeling a little off? Like your visuals, messaging, and your overall vibe just are not lining up with where your business is headed? You probably don't need another pretty logo. You actually need a solid strategy behind your brand. That's exactly what we'll build together inside the Standout Brand Strategy session, a one-on-one deep dive into your brand foundation so that you can finally show up with clarity, consistency, and confidence. And if you're thinking about working with Spect & Co. on branding or web design, this is your first step for every single project that we do together. Clients who've gone through this process have tripled their audience size, doubled their revenue, and raised their rates by 30% or more. Use the link in the show notes to book your session, and don't forget to enter code SFBPOD at checkout to save $100.
Okay, I have one now. And you talk to us more about people for coffee chats because I have wasted a ton of time on coffee chats where somebody will be like, "Oh, I started this last week," or like that. I'm like, it was great to meet you, but like, there's nothing we can do for each other.
Which is like the most frustrating part about coffee chats. Like talk about it wanting to not take action. That's when you just want to shut your calendar off. Like no more coffee chat.
Yeah. Well, and I also am like, I just wasted 30 minutes of nap time. Like I could have been doing work during this.
I could have literally slept on the floor. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I do in strategy sessions with clients, we actually go through and we craft like, what does it look like from the time you agree to get on the coffee chat to the time I schedule with you to getting on the coffee chat and afterwards, right? For that whole process. The most important thing is a couple of shifts that I've made. I do not share my coffee chat link publicly. There's absolutely no reason, right? Not even like, so publicly meaning on social media, websites, whatever, but not even in groups. So the only group that will get my schedule link in the chat on Zoom is my own, because I know my people, right?
Mhm.
So I'm like, here's my link to schedule with me. But if I go to, even like, great example, Madeline and I were just on a call today at 1:00. I know the host, love the host. She's a good friend of mine. I still will not put my schedule link in her chat because I don't know the other people. My calendar is not just open. I want to make sure that I'm sending that calendar link to the right person. And there's not really a step 1, step 2, step 3 to the vibe check. That's totally up to you. But we need to be vibe checking people before we send them the schedule link. So if I come to Danielle and I'm like, Danielle, actually, you know what? That's not a good example. Katie's a great example because Katie and I haven't met yet. If I go to Katie and I say to Katie, hey, let's do a coffee chat. Katie needs to say to me, why? What do you want to have a coffee chat for? What is your intentions? What are your goals? What do you do? Like, there needs to be some kind of vibe check first so that at least we have a complementary industry. We have mutual friends. We have similar audiences. We have a clear intention. I'm also really, really mindful of red flags. Like, I want to see how I can add value to your audience. That's an automatic sales pitch. An automatic no. An automatic no. Right? If you're trying to see how you can add value, no, I'm not getting on a coffee chat with you. So that's really something where you're just kind of vibe checking someone. Don't be afraid to tell them like, hey, I'm just booked up for coffee chats right now. I would love to get to know you in the DMs. Have a conversation with them in the DMs first. What do you do? Tell me about your offers. Whatever you want to know about them, do that first. And then send out the link, right? The other thing that I can tell you, like right off the bat, an immediate change that you can do, I never spend more than 30 minutes with a person for the first time. So sometimes, obviously, I'm not always sending them my links. Every once in a while, I'll schedule through theirs. If I see that it's more than 30 minutes, I will not schedule it. I will not schedule it. I will say, hey, I don't do first time coffee chats for more than 30 minutes. Either can you send me a new link where I can send you mine? Because I get those 60-minute coffee chats. That's an absolute no for me. Because if it's not aligned, I'm not afraid to just say like, hey, it's not aligned, I'm going to get off. But it's almost always taken as rude and it's always kind of awkward and like I'm all of a sudden the bad guy. Right. So I want to give myself that out where it's a little bit more natural. My first time coffee chats right now is at 15 minutes. At 15 minutes, I have the out to say, thank you so much. I'll be in contact, or, thank you for this coffee chat. It was wonderful. Call it a day and get off. Right. Now that doesn't happen because we're pre-qualifying people in the beginning. So the chances of that happening are very, very slim. But when you give yourself those boundaries around coffee chats, it's going to allow you to have less misaligned people on your calendar, or you end up misaligned on theirs, or whatever the case is, right? I mean, it's less wasted time. The other thing I do is when they schedule through my link, I have the questions that you guys have all done coffee chats with me. There's questions. Like there's a whole, you're not here to pick my brain. You're not here to sell me some shit. You're not here to do this, and this. Check these boxes. And yeah, I would say about 85% of the time I get people like, Sarah, that's very abrasive. Were you in your feelings when you made that form? And I'm like, well, probably, yes. But 100% of the time it's effective, and 100% of the time they say they appreciate it. So sometimes there's that like, whoa, like who hurt your feelings when you wrote that form? But then they're like, I see why you do it. Right. And it keeps us on track. Now, if someone gets on my calendar, they check all the boxes that they're not going to sell me something, and they still try to sell me something, they get blacklisted. They get banned from my calendar. Like, you check the boxes and still intentionally pitch me on something, like, we're not doing coffee chats anymore. Channel your inner Sarah when it comes to boundaries.
So it's kind of a question mixed with kind of like an experience that I had, Sarah, and every bit of you ladies. So like I went to a networking thing, and I put in the chat, I'm in the vendor team industry, so it's a little bit different. So I got a person that I know that I went to a networking thing. They reached out to me. They wanted something free. I only did it just for 2 hours as a complimentary thing. Remember, Sarah, we were discussing about that on our call at 1:00. And after that, from that event, there was no lead generation. So I'm thinking maybe this is my potential client. There was no lead generation. Everybody wanted free stuff. They wanted prints. I only offered digital. So they wanted more than they were asking for. They asked me to stay additionally. I told them no. So my question into this experience is that from this networking event is kind of like why I didn't want to go back. So I felt like those women were not my potential referrals in a way, because I'm different from them. So how, like, will I know is like that those connections, or how can I like approach it in a way, I guess.
In terms of like deciding if a group is a good fit.
Yeah, I know, like we discussed that, but like, because we're kind of a little different. So it's like this person is like, she owns a like an event studio and also a yoga thing. And
Yeah.
how she is just, I just don't like her. I'm sorry. I really don't. She wants free stuff and I just can't be giving away my time.
Yeah.
Money talks. I'm so sorry, but it's just like the approach, it wasn't like very professionally. So I wouldn't want to waste my time, like how you were saying about connecting those 30-minute chats, make it just 30 minutes or less. Those coffee chats, you want to waste your time.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, it's okay to not like someone. It's okay to
Yeah.
misalign. I don't typically always feel a need to tell people that I think we're misaligned, right? Unless they're like continuously hitting me up, we might have to have a conversation about it. But typically I just kind of like back off. And it's
Mhm.
not that it has to be this like personal beef where we don't get along. And it's like, I just don't think we're aligned. Like, I'm just not going to invite you to coffee chats. I've removed people from my email list. So they stopped coming to my events. I've stopped sending her follow-ups from coffee chats. And like, when we will go in and strategically map out your follow-up systems, right? The follow-up systems look different for someone who's like a really strong power partner versus this person we get along with. It's a good referral partner, but maybe not a power partner. And then the people who are not really that aligned, their follow-ups look much different, right? They're not getting invited back to a coffee chat every 6 weeks or every 2 months. And it's okay to say that. And I think that that's where we do the vibe check, right? So when someone comes to you, kind of like what I said about like, oh, I want to see how I can add value. If their version of networking is just seeing what they can get for free out of people that come to their group or their meeting, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. And they're going to attract more people like that, especially if they're the facilitator. The facilitator is the one who sets the standard and the energy for a room. So if the facilitator is like that, they're probably attracting people like that into that room. So it's perfectly fair to say, you know what, I don't think this group is a good fit. Or maybe you go once a quarter versus once a week. Like you can figure out that frequency, but it's totally okay to not go back. When I go into a group, I always look at like, are we aligned in terms of how we do business, how we approach networking, why we're here, that kind of thing. But I also want to see, are you actually passing business back and forth with each other? Are you actually collaborating with each other? Because if you're not even passing business back and forth with each other and you've been in the same group for 6 months, why would I think you're going to come in and do all this, collaboration and referrals back and forth with me as the new girl? When you come into Badass Women in Business, you see the women passing business back and forth. You see them collaborating with each other. So when you come into Badass Women in Business, if you join that type of group, right, and you don't see an ROI from it, it's not the group, it's you. If everyone else is passing business and you're not getting referrals, there's something wrong with your approach. Vice versa is if you show up to a group, no one's passing any business, you're not getting any business. It's just not a good fit of a group. So I do look at that. And then, to look at actual industries, this is where I want you to keep an open mind. We have the industries that make the most sense, right? The industries that are ideal clients, ideal referral partners, really strong complementary. So for example, Morgan has a copywriter that she works really, really closely with because those two industries make a lot of sense, right? Those two industries work together a lot. Now, branding and photo booths, there's not, this like super obvious power partner relationship. But that's where we need to stay open, is we need to stay open to the unexpected opportunities. Because you guys might never do a collaboration together, but Morgan knows people and you know people, right? It's all about who do we both know, what types of opportunities can we introduce each other to, and then go from there. So I don't typically look at industry too much as a deciding factor. I want to know like what types of audiences are you talking to? If I go to a group and it's really heavy in network marketing, then the industry matters. I'm not against network marketing, but if that's the sole audience of that group, I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time there just because I know that it's not something that I'm going to do a lot of that.
And that's why I left.
Exactly. Right.
That's why I left. But I wanted your input of like, was it like, I mean, I don't mean to be harsh, but it's like, I don't know. That just basically, I don't even know.
An Irish exit at that. A polite, never go back, but you don't need to say anything. Yeah. That's a great question. Mm-hmm. Morgan said, I actually have a client who has a photo booth business. See? Never know.
That is awesome because I love to connect with other photo booths, And I think that it's other people, I think where I'm at, thinks we're as competition, and I'm not that type of person. I want to help the other person, and vice versa, the same thing. Yeah.
Well, and if like you have a photo booth business in New York and she has a photo booth business in Florida, I feel like that's like, and it's different for like me or Danielle or Sarah, who like I could work with somebody anywhere. But if you run an in-person business, maybe you'll get somebody in that location who needs a photo booth, and now you have someone to send them to.
Yeah, no, of course, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, like even in the service-based industry, so like Danielle's a great example. Danielle does admin. That's a very broad industry. There's things that Danielle very clearly says she does not do. So it's honestly just smart to have like some kind of database. When someone comes to Danielle and says, I just want you to answer email, she's like, hell no, that's not what I do. Okay, I'm way better than that. I'm not just going to sit here and task grab at your email inbox for you. Here's someone who will, right? Or I want a VA who's just going to engage on my social media. Not what Danielle does, but here's someone who does do that. So like people to refer within your industry, and then set up a referral affiliate back and forth with them, so that when they send someone to you, you give them a 10%, whatever. When you send someone to them, you get a 10%, whatever. You're still getting paid on that client, but now you're building a better relationship with the referral partner, and you're building a better brand with the client. Even though you're never going to work with that client in that capacity, you didn't just say no. You didn't just ghost them or ignore them or take their money when it's something you know damn well you don't even do. You've built trust in that person. And even though they're going to go over here and pay the social media VA, they're going to tell all their friends about the experience they had with you when they are looking for something within that. You know what I mean? Like there's just so much benefit to being able to tell someone that they're not a good fit, but here's where you can go. Here's 3 or 4 suggestions of people I trust where I can send you, so that they still feel served and they're not just left to go to a Google search and like hope for the best.
I think too, I don't know what your experience with this, Sarah, is, but I end up referring a lot of people because like they're newer. And so like my prices are not cheap. So like they don't have the budget to hire me. And I'm like, okay, well, here's somebody who I know that has a smaller package or is less expensive or whatever. And like they'll still do a decent job. So like, please don't go to Upwork or Fiverr. Hire this person instead.
Yeah, like that's a great way to do it. If you know that you work with people who have been in business like 3 to 5 years, and you get someone who hasn't even left their 9 to 5 yet, that's a great option. And that person is still going to feel like, wow, Morgan still helped. Like that was so helpful, because here's this person. I don't have to guess. I don't have to go through Upwork. I don't have to do all these things to try and find someone or end up in a bad situation. Like you still get credit, quote unquote, for helping that person simply by making a referral, and simply by saying, listen, I'm not going to take your money. I'm not going to make you feel bad for not being able to afford it or whatever. You're going to love this person. Go have fun. What a great partnership.
I wanted to say really quick that I totally appreciate this. This was super fun to listen to you guys all. And I think it's exactly what you guys are talking about, like really like meeting people and truly creating connections and truly networking so that you can refer. And I like to take a different perspective on some of like the networking events, is like really, I guess, starting to be direct. Like Sarah, I'm very direct. Like Sarah, I have a paint and chestnut horses. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to send her pictures after so you can see. But it's so funny. Anyways, besides that, I'm very direct in that manner. And so sometimes if I was at a networking event like that they were just wanting free stuff, why don't you just call them out on it if you really want to? Like, hey, I'm not here to give any free stuff, but I do have these available and I love to connect and figure out how we can collaborate, and just call it on out. Be like, hey, I don't want to get on this coffee chat with you because we've continued to get on this coffee and I don't have any more free things to give. So sorry, but here's what I have to offer. And I love to share my email list or whatever, like Sarah had said. So those are my perspectives, but I wrote a lot of notes.
I think that being direct, a lot of times people think being direct is being rude, right? Like there's a way to be direct and still be polite and still be serving people and helping people and all the things. So like if someone comes to me and they just want free stuff, I don't really feel a need to be direct to the point where I'm like, oh, I don't do that. Hey, listen, totally fine. Here is what I do. Like, here is what I offer. So it's kind of like yes and no at the same time. It's like, here's what I'm willing to do for free. Outside of that, it's behind a paywall. We actually went to Shai went to a thing where he was meeting with a networking group and to get more information, right? And I was sitting there with them and I was working and whatever and listening to them talk. This networking group is based around helping each other and, trading things. And the way they were wording it was kind of fancy, kind of fluffy. But at the end of the day, it's literally a networking group of people who just do work for each other for free.
Mm.
We're in to know, because then Shai can say, that's not aligning with what I'm looking to do. I'm not looking to just be within this group. It's not just the 3 or 4 people that are sitting at this table. It's outside of that. I'm totally okay. I'm cool with a trade. I'm cool with a barter short term. It's got to be short term, very, very, very clear, right? A clear trade of value. But that's not why I'm joining a group. Right? I don't want to join a networking group for the sole purpose of trading. So when they come to you and they say something like that, where like they're just looking to get stuff for free or they're just looking to barter and they're just looking to do it within this group, I want to know, what are we doing outside of this group? Because once we all barter once or twice, what are we doing? How are we growing? Right? Or we're just going to endlessly work for each other for free. What are we doing? That's not the goal,
Yeah.
I think for me, so sometimes for my clients, we'll put on like fundraising events, and you have to do that ask with all of the retail things. Hey, do you mind donating for our event? It's uncomfortable, but it is what it is, because so many of them, they're nonprofits. This is how they make their money. But the ones who come back and say no, I noticed so many of them use the word capacity, and I think it's such a great word to use. We're so sorry. We don't have the capacity. We don't have any more capacity, to donate our services. But feel free to ask again in the future, or here's this, here's our information if you want something like that. Even if they're not even giving us a discount or anything, they're at least like, well, here's our website. It's such a good way to turn it down, because it makes you think, well, one, it automatically makes you think, oh, well, they must be giving to something like in a good way. Since these are nonprofits, you're like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. We just didn't make the cut. No problem. And then also, like, that's a capacity is capacity. Like, if the glass is full, there's nothing else you can do. So that's how I would word it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that also, like, at least like in the case of like nonprofits and stuff, like to you, Danielle, that's a good indication of like, oh, I should reach out to them when we do this next year. I just need to reach out sooner.
Or you come right back to them and like, as soon as they say they don't have capacity, let us know about future events, have a date for the next event.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What about next year?
Well, I have a thing I was telling Sarah on our call before this one was that we're having an event on Sunday. So we're offering 2 hours of our photo booth services for free, but the person paid for a virtual photo booth. So it comps out of, we got something paid out of it. It's for a fundraiser for kids that are sick and everything. So we're doing it for a good cause. But in the end, we got something out of it. But I learned, like, once you do it once for free, they're going to expect it all the time. So never do it more than twice. The third time, like how you said, Danielle, like, listen, like, this is it. How you worded it. Perfect. How I worded it. I was just pure blunt. So, here's a website, here are prices. If you want to go a different direction, we totally understand. What will be in the future, But yeah, I get that all the time. All the time.
One thing that I've seen, and like, I think nonprofits are different too. Like, if it's a good cause, if it's a fundraiser, if it's something that's important to you, donating services, time, products, whatever, it's totally up to the brand and you can write it off. Right. But when you get like an entrepreneur who's coming to you just simply because they don't want to pay or because they can't afford it or whatever the case is, there was a script I found. I think it might have been like even like an Instagram post or something, but I loved it. It was, I have a certain amount of free work that I do every month or every quarter. Insert here the time frame. I have a certain amount of things, similar to the word capacity. I'm currently at that number, right? I've currently done all my free work for this quarter. Here's how you can work with me outside of that, right? I've donated my time to capacity, basically exactly what Danielle said, but it's like I have allotted certain amounts of it each quarter, each month, whatever, right? There's always a nice way to tell someone no. And there's always a nice way to, like, where you're not saying like some fluffy answer of like, oh, I would love to, but no, I wouldn't love to, actually. That's not in my vision board to just do a bunch of work for free. But thank you so much. Right? Like, it's totally, there's a nice way to just position that, or I like to say yes in a different way. Like, yes, I would love to help you out. Here's the free resource. whatever that free resource is. And if they want something outside of that resource, but this is what I offer for free over here. You know, what you're asking for is actually over here in this program. Yeah.
So
Great.
I almost never do work for free or even discounted anymore. And like what I'll do instead is be like, maybe I can like take some things out of the package to make it more affordable. But in the event that I do, I still like send them a contract and I'll send them an invoice with like what the price would be and then just like discounted so that then they're not like, we did it free last time. And I'm like, well, it was actually this much last time. Like, and that kind of also helps remind people of like, there is a monetary value for what you're receiving.
Yeah. I actually learned that from waitressing in the restaurant at Longhorn Steakhouse back when I was living in Kansas. They do it to where they don't take it off the bill, right? So if they give you like a birthday dessert or they comp or whatever, they do not take it off your bill. They leave it on your bill and it just shows that it's taken off. And there's something about the psychology of it that just lets people know that like, oh, we actually gifted you this thing, right? Like just reminding you that we comped this thing for you. Same thing with like services, right? The service is a $5,000 service, but I agreed to give you whatever it is for $3,000. So here's a discount code so that the invoice still says $5,000 and your brain still sees $5,000. But with this discount code, it came down to this much. It's all about psychology.
Well, and the other thing too, like I just did a grocery order this morning and like I love looking at my receipt and being like, oh my God, I saved $13. And so it's kind of the same thing. If you don't put that on there, people don't realize like that they're getting anything. Well, thanks, Sarah. This was great.
And I just a quick reminder too that I do strategy sessions one-off. They're really easy 1-hour strategy sessions. So if you guys need anything in terms of like diving into intros, diving into coffee chats, diving into like one specific aspect of what we talked about, you know, slide in my DMs on Instagram for sure.
Hey, Morgan here. I hope you enjoyed that training from the Six Figure Brand Society Vault. I know learning from Sarah has really shifted my whole perspective on networking, and I'm sure it has yours too. If you want to connect with her, all of her links will be in the show notes. And if you love this training and you want more of this type of content, you can join the Six Figure Brand Society and get a discount on your first month or quarter by using the link in the show notes. See you next week. Thanks for tuning in to the Six Figure Brand Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to rate the show and leave a review on whatever app you're listening on. And as a thank you, I'll send you coffee on me. Yes, I'm serious. As a smaller show for now, you taking the time to do this makes a huge impact on how we can reach more people and how I can continue to create this content for free. When you take a screenshot of your review, follow and tag me on Instagram at @SpectandCo. I'll send you a $5 Starbucks gift card. As always, don't forget to check out the show notes for any links or resources I mentioned during the episode. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week.